And we are back. This is Tom Anderson, the Tom Anderson Show. It's 64 degrees outside. It looks like the weather is going to get better, and I always wonder how they forecast the weather a week out with surety, but it looks like Monday will be 61 degrees, but everything prior to that, days forthcoming, almost up to 70 degrees, so that's good news. In the studio, we have congressional candidate Matt Moore, Democrat. He was talking about differentiating the differences between himself and his opponent, longtime Alaskan Congressman Don Young. We do have a caller, but before we get to you, Peter, I'm going to ask another question on the tail of a comment that was made today from someone recognizing you would be on, Matt, and that was, hey, there's a balance between tenure and service and ticking people off. And this person said, Congressman Young has a tendency, in his view, to and he's Republican, the person who said it to me, right, names to go unmentioned, sometimes tick people off. And then I said, well, you know, I can't analyze that. That would be a good point on the show. To my point, I researched and asked some people about what committees Don was on, Congressman Young, and is he, you would know this better than I, is he only on the Indian Affairs Subcommittee? And how does that work for listeners? I mean, does the subcommittee matter or does it not?
That's the only one he chairs right now, and I think it does matter that he is on there. You know, we do have a very large Native population up here, and he's trying his best, I think, in his mind to look out for them. But at the same time, you know, if you're irascible, if you're not a friendly guy, if you can't form relationships with people in Washington, you're not going to be able to move business forward. That's all there is to it. And so when I've watched Don over the years, when I first came up here and watched, you know, I was getting ready to participate in the first election, someone said, yeah, we're going to vote for Don because he's our congressman. And I watched him, and then I've watched him over the years, and, you know, everyone changes over time. And so one of the things I've always wondered is, why don't we have other congressmen that come up and say, hey, you know, this is our guy. I'm stumping for this guy. I'm supporting him. This is what he's done for you. I haven't seen it. And I also haven't seen him come back and say, I will do debates. I will let people see what I am.
So he won't debate you?
I don't. Well, right now, you know, we're going to be moving into the primary, so there's not going to be a reason why he's going to say, I'm going to pick you in advance of the primary. But you're hoping for that, but it may be wishful thinking in your mind. Oh, I think it probably is, because, you know, as a geologist, I always think, well, how am I going to look at past processes that I can't see now? Well, you have to look at the present. The present's key to the past. So if I look back like 2 years and say, well, would he come back and would he debate with anybody? No. 4 years, no. 6 years, no. And so it's a pattern that he has where it's, you know, when he comes up and he debates, or if he speaks on issues with an opponent, he's not going to look as well as him just not saying anything.
And so you feel he holds off as a result. Well, let's get to the questions, and I'm going to ask you about Hawaii and his endorsement there of a Democrat. But first we have a caller, Peter, program. What's your question or comment for Matt Moore?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
You bet.
So I kind of have a two-parter here. First is that Don Young has kind of a reputation for not showing up for votes, maybe not even to meetings, and I wanted to know how important you think it is that our only congressman in the House of Representatives shows up for as many votes as possible. And the other question is, Alaskans are in kind of a unique situation geographically, with the only other state being similar would be Hawaii, where we have to fly to get most places. And most of your viewers are going to know the TSA has gotten a lot more restrictive in how it does its screenings when you go to the airport, with invasive pat-downs and those scanning machines that see through your clothes and whatnot. Will you use your influence as a congressman to try to fix those issues, considering how important it is for Alaskans in particular?
Great questions, and I watched the candidate. I know that he's a note taker. He must have a little lawyer or doctor in him, because he's a copious note taker. So can you remember the two questions, Matt?
Surprisingly, yes.
Okay, good.
I'll have to look at my notes. No, the first question was, how important do I think it is to actually be there and vote and represent Alaska? It's pretty important. As a business owner, if I have someone that's not showing up for work, you know, we've got a problem. We have to sit down. We have to have a talk. If it continues, I have to put a letter in their file. And if that continues, maybe I even have to replace them. And that's really where we are. You know, voting is not all that there is to be a congressman. but it's a big part of it. And if you can't show up for work, you can't give your voice. It's like when you're at school or when you're in college and the professor says, okay, everybody, now this is going to be on the test. If you weren't there, guess what? That's one little easy one that you missed.
And I'm going to interject while you're giving the answer. And as Peter and Dave are listening and our listeners are listening, you know that the majority of candidates would answer that way, meaning, of course, you should be there and that's prompt. You're not saying, though, that it's the end all. What I hear you saying is it's a component of why you think you would do a better job than Mr. Young. I mean, right? Because people miss. Sorry, my hackles get ruffled not by you, but at people, if they say you must attend every meeting, you must make every vote. Well, I didn't either, and I thought I was very effective.
Well, you can't make every vote because you will have conflicts at times. But the thing is, the things that are important for Alaska, if you're not there and you know that you should be and you skip it intentionally, and then you make up an excuse, then I've got to tell you, you're not doing a job. You're not representing Alaska. You might be a congressman, but you're not being a representative. And
now, he brought up ethics. Peter brought up ethics. Do you think that's in question, too? I mean, you're a nice guy. I think you've been very diplomatic in your responses. I followed you. Right. You're not out there heckling Congressman Young, but you've also said that that's an element to the campaign, but you've been, again, very professional, I think, kind about it. What would be your response there? Would you say let the voters decide and the news and Google gives all the answers?
A little bit of both, but yes, I think that we've got a problem with House ethics in Washington. I think that they can turn a blind eye to anybody, and I think the Department of Justice has, a 0-3 record right now. So for them, basically, well, let's take a look at somebody like Rangel. Rangel gets censored. All of his peers turn their back on him while he walks out. I was like, oh my gosh, that was it? Because when I was a little kid and somebody was going to get spanked in the room, like either me or my sister, is like, you knew something bad was coming, and I thought something really bad was happening. It's like they just let him walk out. And
he had 4 apartments in Harlem that he had. I mean, if you get into that, I cannot believe he stayed there. But I understand your answer, and I know Peter's waiting for the other answer on TSA, sure. And we have another online, and I know the calls are going to start stacking up. What's your answer on the TSA element and policy there?
The TSA element.
People hate them often.
All right. In our country, sometimes when we are supposed to have an appropriate response to something that's happened, we double down on stupid. We really do. And so we go for the highest tech possible solution that we can, when a lot of times really what we should do is we should look at things that are already in place. Like if you look at the security that's in place at the Ben Gurion Airport, they use trained detectives where they can work the crowd. And that's in
Israel, of course.
Where they can work the crowd, they can look at people, they know the ones that are having suspective activities, and they'll pull them to the side and they'll get a chance to really decide whether or not it's an issue. Now for us in Alaska, yes, it's a real problem. In fact, even other candidates are having problems because they have a problem with TSA. And yes, I think they've exceeded their bounds. They've gone past where privacy should be. And some of us have given up a little bit of our rights to privacy, and we've done it on the basis of national security. That's why we've made that decision. But when you look at Alaska as a whole, we have grocers that are out in Bush, Alaska. They have to get their, say their vegetables and their produce. It'll come up from Seattle. Well, it has to go through a TSA shipper, and then it's shipped to Anchorage, and from Anchorage out into the bush. Well, guess what? They have to do another TSA screen. And that's required federally. And it's an unfunded federal mandate, so it goes to Alaska Airlines, and then Alaska Airlines does that. So it's been done twice now. And that second time, guess what? They have to pay for it again. And so it's an opportunity for them to just keep on having more and more higher prices out in the middle of nowhere.
So your point is there's a balance between bureaucracy and spending. There's a balance between safety and annoyance. And there's also a balance between what a policymaker can make. Because in terms of it, so often we get asked questions, especially at your higher level, where it's like, what are you going to do? And I mean, I'm raising my hand here in the studio. The policies for TSA are 3 feet. Obviously, you don't have a succinct answer because you have to study that. But your point is there's that balance, and you're not seeing that now to the degree you'd like. Well, I thought those are very good questions, Peter. We're getting seriously close to a break, so I'm going to get to Jack and then Allison, if you can hang on through the break and Fox News. Jack, welcome to the Tom Anderson Show. What's your question or comment for Matt Moore, a candidate for Congress?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Now, I would like a yes or no answer before the explanation to this question, and I know there's a lot of variables in that because you weren't in there when they were doing it and all that, and if you got the office you're going for, you wouldn't be in there neither. But if you were in the legislature, would you have voted for that film tax subsidy?
And Matt, before you answer, recognize that there were, and we have 2 minutes, so he's going to answer that, Jack, and thanks for the call. Remember that there was delineations to that in terms of, is there a subsidy for the larger production companies coming in? Is there a subsidy for the local and for the equipment? And I mean, there was phases in it. I think his question basically is, do you want to inspire people to come in and make movies and give them a credit? I mean, he didn't delineate, but I'm doing that for him.
Sure.
I would assume you're for it.
Well, I'm gonna answer it the way he wanted me to, which is I'll say yes, and here's why. One, we're trying to promote an industry that we don't have, and what we're talking about is we're talking about diversification. We're a resource-based state. We always have been. You know, when the Russians had us, they had us for resources. They sold it to us because they thought they were done with all the fur trade, and so here we are. We've been working timber really hard, oil really hard, fishing really hard, and we still haven't gotten to the point where we have other things that we do. We don't have other products that we make and markets that we sell to. And so having something, diversification through something like a film credit, it's a great idea. Whether or not it works every time, I don't think it will work every time, but what you want it to do is you want it to work the majority of the time, and you want to be able to entice or enhance, you know, the product that people have.
And employment in Alaska. You mentioned that earlier.
Well,
that
you absolutely do want
everybody.
to. But I know for the last film that was done, there was just a small amount that really went to Alaska, and I think people felt like they were cheated by it.
Well, and that makes sense, and I've heard that from many Republicans and Democrats. Well, hey, this has been good. We have one more segment here. I should say one half of the show remaining, 2 more segments. Matt Moore is my guest, Democrat congressional candidate running against Don Young. Allison, if you can stick with us, she is waiting on hold. We have Fox News National, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Stick with us. This is the Tom Anderson